Conscious Radio Network's YouTube channel. Become enlightened, have fun, and tell all your friends and family to share with everyone they know. You can find us on Facebook and stay up to date on our Facebook group, or find us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Our podcast can be found on Libsyn, iHeart, Spotify, Google Podcast, and more. Most of all, remember to go to our official website at consciousradionetwork.com for podcasts, posts, future shows, and scheduling. We also want to welcome our international audience. Don't stop now and join the community. Subscribe today.
This is the Conscious Radio Network. This is the Conscious Radio Network.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you might be on this spaceship we call Earth. Welcome to Conscious Radio Network's weekly podcast series, The Weekly Seance. I'm your host, Reverend Dr. Paul Meckes. If this is your first time watching us or listening to us on the YouTube channel, please click subscribe, like, share, and comment. And also, don't forget to follow us wherever you listen to your podcast on any of these platforms below. So tonight, joining us, we're going to be talking about the emotional body, trauma, and release. Author and ordained minister, teacher, lead facilitator, and the way through experience. Scott Donat will be joining us. He had to sign off briefly to, we had a little bit of an audio issue, kind of coming, kind of like an oscillation and stuff like that. So he's setting up his laptop or a laptop to see if that will correct the issue. But while we're waiting for him to join back in with us, I wanted to share with you the opening video or the introduction of as we open up the show. Excuse me. I added in the trailer for the introduction for our 6 guests that will be with us on our 6 episodes for season 15, which does start on Monday, May 1st at 9 o'clock. We have 2 more shows. We have actually 3 more shows tonight, next week, and I believe the 24th. And those are going to be our last 3 broadcasts that are going to be live of the weekly seance. And then as we jump into season 15, they're all pre-recorded. So, but nonetheless, they will be broadcasted on our YouTube channel through the what YouTube calls YouTube Premiere, meaning for the first time. And so let's see. He is actually. Whoa, there we go. Go back here. Come on. Show him on screen. There we go. Is Scott back with us? maybe. Almost. Maybe. Well, he shows up. So perhaps. But until we confirm and he confirms that there you guys. Hello. The laptop is working. So as we wait for Scott to shuffle in the spot there and get all set up and run, there we go. Can you hear me?
I can.
Awesome.
Hear me?
I can hear you. Perfect.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Turn him up just a bit. My lovely assistant here will now slip into the picture and assist.
Hey Becky, how you doing?
Hi, how you doing, Paul?
All right.
All right, that's all you got.
That's all we get, huh? Okay, thank you. I appreciate you.
Right on. So as we jump into the show, let's welcome back to the show Scott Donat.
Thank you.
You're welcome. No worries. Stuff happens, right? Yeah. So I was explaining that we're going to be speaking and talking about discussing the emotional body, trauma, and the release of that trauma. And I believe this is part of your program, the Way Through Experience, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah. And kind of the foundational piece behind it when I give talks on the workshop or on the foundations of the workshop, I typically call it the emotional body, trauma or release, or both.
Yeah.
Yeah, identifying trauma and then identifying release, I think, are the first two pieces of really trying to understand what we're doing and what we're trying to accomplish at workshop.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, explain what is the Way Through Experience?
Well, so that is probably the best and worst kept secret that there is. We don't speak to what happens at workshop. That becomes that space. But I can give you a synopsis of the work, and I think that gives most folks a basic idea all about.
Yeah.
The mythology says that Ted Danson and a couple of psychotherapists were noticing that some of their in
Uh-oh. We got some streaming issues. Scott, if you can hear me, yeah. I think you got some lagging in the internet.
In the acting industry, were getting
Uh-oh. Yeah, it looks like the internet connection has kind of it might be the weather.
in long-term roles.
Mm-hmm. Can you hear me, Scott? It looks like even though you're we lost them. Well, that sucks. Hopefully he'll come back in. Maybe refreshed internet connection stuff, but let me see what I can do here. It's doesn't look like it's on my end. Looks like he's having issues with his internet connection. So, see, this is one reason why going live, when you have these issues, you can actually cover them up and then broadcast them later into a nice and perfect, cleaned up version of a show. So, so when Scott returns, we can jump back into the conversation on explaining what the Way Through experience is and how it was founded, and what the approach is and the purpose of the Way Through experience. But until then, hope he gets the internet connection. Because I'd like to find out too who experiences from the Way Through experience, like what it was, what's it for, and who can benefit from this, and obviously the history of the Way Through experience workshop, which is what it is. It's a workshop. So until he can come through, I am also trying to monitor the oops. Yep. So but until he can get back in, I just wanted to let everybody know, as before he came back onto the show originally, is that so our shows are going to stop doing live broadcasts, or we're going to stop doing live broadcasts as of the end of this month, and starting May 1st is pre-recorded. And instead of one show a week, it is going to be 2 shows per week. So, but for those who have been to the Way Through workshop, David Portier says, the biggest thing I got out of my workshop was how to love myself. I've always been great about spreading love around, but not so much in giving it back to myself. That is true. That is true, David. Thank you, David, for sharing that. That is something that we're all guilty of. We can show compassion and love and care and assistance and help to others, but we give too much of that energy away to the point that we forget about ourselves, and we forget about us. We forget about what's important. Us, because otherwise we wouldn't have those experiences. Thank you for sharing that, David. If there's anybody else that until Scott can come back in and share the Way Through experience, if there's any listeners, viewers out there that would like to share their experience with us, definitely, I would very much appreciate that. That way we can fill time until we can get Scott back in on the show. We may end up having, if this show ends up kind of going sideways, going on tangent, we might possibly rebroadcast this, record this and rebroadcast this for a later show. We'll kind of arrange that. Again, thank you, David, for sharing that. Yeah, it is something that we always have always spread a bunch of love around and caring, and we forget about ourselves. We don't take time out for ourselves to love ourselves. So thank you, Dave, again for that. Let me bring up Scott's information there. So for those who want more on Scott's work and the program that he facilitates, go to thewaythroughexperience.com. That will take you anywhere, everywhere. That is the digital bricks and mortar for the Way Through experience. If you want to learn more about it, In the meantime, I hope he is able to log back in. We have been getting a lot of crazy weather today. It hasn't rained in a very long time here in the state of Florida. And all of a sudden, we've gotten this just burst of rain. And it's been picking up throughout the day. And I think it still is raining. And the weather here can do some unusual things with the internet, especially when everything dries out and it's dry for a long period of time. And suddenly everything gets wet. And it's like, do not add water. So, but let me see here. Wonder if I can do maybe assist in. Maybe assist in the game a little bit. Got to kill some time here, man. We got to kill some time. But I wish I could, I wish I would have went to one of his workshops. That way I can kind of facilitate this show as Scott is working on his program. If there's any listeners and any viewers out there that's been to his program and like David, if you'd like to share some more information and you're still watching it, that would be awesome. I'm also gonna try to open up the phone line. I'm gonna be creative right now. Open up the phone line. And if you would like to call in and speak about your experience of the way through experience and your experience through the workshop, please do. That's the phone number, 407-636-1157. So, and I will pick up the phone here. Voila. There's our call-in line right there. So if you'd like to call on in and, give your opinion, give your experience and stuff of your show. I'm sure right now Scott's probably, it's kind of feeling it. It's like, oh my God, I'm supposed to have my show, man. This is my spot. I know what it feels like. It's especially when the show kind of goes when we have these live broadcasts. And that is why starting May 1st, we're not going to be doing live anymore, because this seems to be happening more often during live broadcasts. There's always some sort of a weird hiccup. I lose my camera, I lose my audio, somebody else loses their internet, they lose their audio, something weird happens, or I don't broadcast, but the system says I broadcast. So there's a lot of risks for going live. So, and I don't have IT techs in the background helping me out. So, so for any of those who have been through the way through experience with Scott and would like to share your information, share your experience, please call in. You can call in at 407-636-1157. And let's fill the time. We still got about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, up to about 8:45. Please do, because I'm not sure if we're having some issues. I am seeing. I'm trying to see if Scott is. Yeah. Possibly record this later and then rebroadcast it. So, but no worries. Because I would definitely like to record this show with Scott. And but when it comes to the weather, when it comes to technology and it's undependable, you can't help it. It's crazy. It's not fun. So for those who, again, thank you, David, for sharing that information. Again, if there's anybody else out there that would like to share their information, their experience with the way through experience, please do. And you can call 407-636-1157. In the meantime, you can listen to this show too after wherever you listen to your podcast. You can either listen to the most popular out there is Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify. We're also on Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, TuneIn Radio, and as well as Libsyn. And Libsyn is our host for all our podcast sessions that go out on audio. So you can find all those down there on the bottom. And to stay tuned to all of our other programming, upcoming shows, information, you can go to our website, www.consciousradionetwork.com. That is our digital bricks and mortar. There is where you can find all of our information. And like I said, our calendar of events, upcoming shows, past shows, or go straight to the YouTube channel. So, it looks like Scott and Becky are having, wow, they must be having some really bad internet issues. Yeah, because before Scott came on, he was having issues with the phone as well. So let me look on our past guests and see if I can bring up Scott's website, and that way I can share that. Because I would like to fill in the entire half hour, 45 minutes with his specific content, because this is his show. He requested it, he scheduled it, and yeah. So let me bring this up. Let me get it all set up and ready. And yeah, there we go. Whoa. Don't need that. So, there we go. So this is Scott's website. Actually, no, that's the foot guy. The way through experience. Let me bring, come on. And I'm having issues. See, when you're not preparing for a show all the way, you have issues. So let me bring up. So Scott is also a reflexologist. So if you having any issues, any pain, any maybe neuropathy, I don't know. Whoa, hold on. Let me bring him back there.
Oh, Paul's back. No, Paul's.
Hey, there you go. There you are. Welcome back.
Paul never went anywhere. Scott went somewhere.
I tried. Somebody, David had chimed in a little bit there on the chat and stuff, and gave some of his of experience and stuff of giving love to everybody else, but he wasn't giving it back to himself. So that's important. You got to do that. So so I was getting ready to share a little bit of your website and stuff for the way through experience. But
I saw that when we popped back on. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, man, I gotta fill the time, man. This is your time. So where do we leave off? We left off as far as the history of the workshop and what is the way through experience.
At front door as well. I can barely hear Paul. I think I'm gonna. There we go. We're gonna shut the door because it started to rain here, Paul, and of course.
It's loud.
The perfect storm, because in an RV, as soon as it starts to rain, you can't hear anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
the history of the workshop and history of the workshop. How did it start?
Okay. Well, I can definitely do a recap on that. So there is probably a very logical group of therapists that put this work together. and I'm sure that they have names, and they're out of New York and LA, and I wish I knew who they were to give them more credit, but I don't. All I know is the mythology of the work, and that is that Ted Danson and some psychotherapists came together in the late 70s, and after noticing that there were actors and actresses that struggled with being stuck in roles, meaning they were maintaining the character they were portraying in their walking around everyday life. And not only that, but making that final separation between an old role, moving back into your center and your magic, and then auditioning for the new role and moving into character for that role became quite difficult. So they created a workshop that allowed folks to drop all of the old roles that they had acquired and step back into their fresh, cleaned off magic, into their inspirational self, and be able to acquire roles by choice. So they noticed that not only did it work for the roles that these folks had chosen as actors and actresses, it also worked for the roles that they had acquired for survival or in their early childhood or as a result of some form of trauma, usually early in life. And after coming out from underneath that, they were more in their essence. They were more in their magic. They were more in their inspirational self. And they realized that they had something more than an actor or actress workshop, an arts workshop. They had a piece of work here that was really going to be not only sustainable, but applicable to the general public as a whole.
Yeah.
And third generation now, the young man that you were speaking to when we ran into technical difficulties, he and his wife are the people that will be taking over for Becky and I as we hand off the work to the next generation. David and Kiki Poirier will be the next generation of leaders doing this work down the road. So we're doing our best to pass it on, to keep it flowing. We do the work about 10 times a year out of Melbourne. And I think that's all I know.
Huh. Cool.
Oh,
cool.
Paul's stuck.
Paul be stuck?
Frozen. Oh, but he's there.
But I'm here. You can still hear me though, right? You can still hear me?
I can, yes.
Cool. So, who can benefit from this? Who are the beneficiaries, basically? What's So, I want to put the everyone and all people blanket on the work, of course. I felt the same way about Alcoholics Anonymous back in the 80s when I went there to start this journey that I've been on for decades. But really, it's for those who are ready. This can't be an oops, I found myself here at this workshop. And rarely is it that. There has to be some kind of desire to overcome something that's in their way or become unstuck from where they have plateaued. I liken it a lot to folks who are working out in the gym. People can identify with this one really easy. You get to a weight plateau or to a body weight plateau,
and you can't seem to lose any more weight, or you can't seem to put on any more weight in your workout, and you feel like you've plateaued and you're stuck, and you have to do something new and different to get a new and different result. And I think the workshop for a lot of people has become that I want more. I have to do something different to get more. That there's folks that have been in therapy, they're working with coaches, they're in a recovery program, and we're not here to replace those things. We in fact, I would say we are not a replacement for therapy, for your coach, for your recovery or 12-step programs.
Yeah.
We're an enhancement to it. We're part of what takes people out of the mind and out of the rat race of the chaos that they're familiar with, and drops them soundly into their body to deal with the stuff that they ran away from. Now, I say ran away, and people immediately get defensive. That could be, by run away, I mean not deal with, save it for later. We're not capable of dealing with. That it was too much or too overwhelming for you at that time. And it then became shadow. It then became trauma that was going to have to be resolved at a later date. You're going to have to go back and do that work, right? So we do that in therapy. We do that with coaches. We do that in the recovery rooms. But what we offer at the way through, and in the workshop, and in the process of that that group of people continuing the work, moving forward over not only months and years, but decades, really becomes this unfolding of all of the stuff, right?
Yeah.
The stuff that's stuck, the stuff that we can't find. One of the things that I share with people who have been traumatized is for a large number of us, we forget big chunks of our childhood.
Yeah.
Well, at no time ever did anyone ever forget happy stuff, right? We don't block out happy stuff. We don't suppress joyful and wonderful experiences. We block out and suppress overwhelming experiences.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there's a large number of our population that's walking around with unresolved trauma, and some folks with complex trauma. Not only the original trauma, right, but because they are now looking at life and attracting life, and their thought process and their emotions are geared towards that trauma. Now they eventually attract more trauma to themselves, and then they become, classically, multi-traumatized or complex trauma, which just means multiple events occurring to the same individual. That's what makes it complex. It's deeper, it's wider, it has a greater birth, and more work needs to get done. And that's the beauty and wonder of being able to come back and support the next group of people going through the work is you get to do those deeper layers, those onions, and really pull into some deeper work.
Yeah. Now that I kind of got this like epiphany. It's like, whoa, like this realization when you said that we have a tendency of pushing all these things off for a later time, putting them on the back burner, so to speak. And I just got this vision that these things that we put off on the back burner in our lives because they're too overwhelming. I don't want to deal with it now. Let's deal with it later. It's like these are events that are supposed to happen. They are supposed to happen. They're script. They're part of our soul experience. They're part of our soul contract. but because we put them off to the side, we're gonna have to deal with them later.
Well, not only that, but why did your soul contract for those experiences? Right? They contracted for those experiences because there was magic that was going to be made available to you as a result of coming through that. Because you saved it for later, you didn't get the magic. So now you're operating in your life on a script that you haven't got all the words for, that you don't have all the tools for, because you haven't finished acquiring all the tools that you're supposed to have for your script.
Yeah.
And the wonder and beauty of it is when you go back and do that work, that magic is waiting for you. Right? That the magic that you were supposed to acquire initially when you went through it and weren't able to, weren't capable of, or decided you didn't want to, when you finally do go back and do that, that magic is sitting inside of that trauma, inside of that shadow, waiting for you to do the work and discover your piece of magic. So now when you go back to your life, when you come out the other side of the belly of the beast, right? Now you're new and different. And your result, that as a result of you being different, you change your world.
Yeah.
And you change your world forever because you're now different, and you've now affected your entire world. And if we keep doing that, we keep going back and going through that process, then our life continues to step forward, consistently getting better and better and better. And even when life throws us spins and curves, our ability to cope and deal and groove with what happens and occurs becomes that much better. And our resilience, almost a natural part of our process of how we roll. So it's really an empowering process over time as well.
Huh. That is remarkable. That is cool.
Mm-hmm. It's been an amazing 3 decades.
Yeah. Oh, man. That's how long you've been on this mission, working with this this modality and this work.
Yeah. I took my workshop in September of 1991.
Wow.
With my mentor and then the workshop leader, Art Sellers. I mentioned in our interrupted piece, we're creating a book now about his channeled conversations with his guide, as well as leaders and people that he mentored and guided, writing excerpts and pieces, and putting that all together in a book about the workshop, about art, and about the process of the last 3 decades, and really how it's come together, and hopefully where it's going. And perhaps, someday down the road, we find a day when we don't need workshops anymore. But right now we're still pretty consistently beating each other up. So as long as we're doing that, there'll be a place for the workshop, unfortunately. But fortunately, there'll be a workshop to help folks.
Yeah. And is this strictly in person? This has to be in person workshop, or is this also online?
Yeah. Not only is it in person, it's a 3-day intensive. It starts Friday at 6:00, goes till about midnight. We start again at 9:00 on Saturday morning. We go till about midnight. We start again 9:00 on Sunday morning. We go till about 6. And we have a follow up a couple weeks later. And that's 3 or 4 hours of just checking in and seeing how everybody's doing. And then we regather again in a month and do it all over again. So yeah.
Cool. All right, cool. So what's got about 5 minutes. What's a big what would be a big takeaway for those that are watching? Now I'm assuming people are watching. What's weird is while you were going through your your thing on the internet connection, I just
Uh-huh.
noticed that even though it says there's one person watching, it shows that my system has lost the designation, but it's still broadcasting on YouTube, but it's saying I lost my designation. So I don't know what's going on. So who knows?
Yeah,
Weird
who
stuff is
knows?
happening tonight.
With any luck, we'll keep the recording, and you can
Yeah.
edit through it
Yeah.
and use what. So what's the big takeaway? So individually for me, the big takeaway has been a purpose, a life mission. Uh, this process, this work, it filtered over into my walking around life. It filtered into my reflexology business. I wrote a book about emotive reflex method. That's the practice that I do as foot guy. And it is literally the essence of what and how we do the way through work, refined down to a one-on-one session with the person that really feels like a reading, and and is really just a reflection of the reflexes that are happening in a person's foot, and what that means emotionally, right? As far as the big takeaway for someone coming to work, getting unstuck, um, uh, the relief of not carrying that secret anymore, the removal of triggers that used to run you, that now are just a remembrance of where the magic came from instead of where the pain was born.
Yeah.
It really becomes this empowerment exercise about stepping into who you really are, and owning all of the pieces and parts that happen to you, and allowing them to be a part of your magic, of who and what your essence truly is. And back to that script piece that you and I were talking about, moving back into alignment with your script and your purpose, and the magic that you're supposed to be wielding in this lifetime, so that you can make a difference, so that you can help people, so that you can change lives. I think that's why some of us go through trauma and survive, because a lot of people die or go crazy.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So why did we survive? Why did the folks who show up at workshops survive? Well, it's in my opinion, because they have work to do. So it's like, let's do the work. Let's deal with the demons, and get to work on changing the planet, making a difference. Doing that stuff.
Yeah. 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 We got to clean out the closet. We got to do some spring cleaning.
Right? Yeah. 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 And even the stuff that you don't know is there, it's like, okay, let's just go find out what's there. I'm tired of looking at that box in the corner and being afraid to open it. Let's just go rip the top off and deal with whatever the heck's inside.
Yep. Yeah. And that goes for anything and everything. We're always scared to check certain things out, open certain things up, explore certain things. It's like we're always afraid, because we sabotage ourselves mentally, going, I don't know, if I do that, then this might happen. I'm going, hasn't happened yet. How do you know?
Or the one where it's like, I don't know if I can handle that. Well, hang on for a second. That already happened. You handled it. You just didn't handle it in a way that served you.
Yeah.
So yes, you can handle it because you already did. It's already happened. This is just going back and owning what happened, standing in it for a second and releasing it. You're just going to pick up your magic.
Yeah.
Hush now, and let's go back and do our work.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Redeem. Yeah, you got to go back and redeem you got to redeem that golden ticket so you can get on the train, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it in a
Wow.
nutshell, too.
Heck yeah. Whew. Sweet. Well, unfortunately, we have met our time with some weird, interesting circumstances, but on the audio
Right.
version, that will all be edited out. So, but other than that, we
Right.
did get quite a bit of really good information, and that's what
I
the
think
show's
so.
all
Yeah.
about. People gotta, take away some really important information and some information that they can get in touch with you, get in touch with your team, and your workshop, and explore the possibilities of their human existence. And
Amen,
but
brother.
other than that,
Perfectly put.
yeah. So Scott, thank you again for being on the show. Namaste, my friend. It's always
Thank
a
you, Paul.
pleasure.
Appreciate you, brother. Thanks for all you do, man.
You were very, very, very welcome. And maybe we do another show sometime. Anything new coming up down the line, a new book or a new stuff with your reflexology and stuff like that, let me know. We'll book the show, another spot and stuff like that, and maybe tie some tinfoil on the antenna so it can get a better better internet. Something.
There's use for that foil.
Yeah. Tinfoil hats.
Tape it around for a reason.
Right.
All right, brother. Be well. Thank you.
You are very welcome.
See you next time.
You have a good night. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into Conscious Radio Network's The Weekly Seance. And until next week, we'll see you then.